Good morning, my sisters and brothers of Oakwood Church. I hope this finds you well. It's Wednesday, the 23rd of December, which means only 2 more sleeps till Christmas. Woo! I hope you are as excited as I am. So today we find ourselves in Galatians chapter 4, and I'm going to read from verses 4 to verse 7. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as daughters and sons. And because you are sons and daughters, God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. So you are no longer a slave, but a son and a daughter. And if a son or a daughter, then an heir through God. At the centre of Galatians, you'll find one simple but world-shattering truth. And although it's the same truth that is the foundation of the good news that God is sending us out into the world to proclaim, it's not something that you really hear spoken about on a Sunday morning. Because the thing you've got to realise about anywhere you gather groups of people together is that in order to organise anything or get people to function with any degree of purpose, you need to develop social conventions and societal expectations, or as they're more commonly known, political systems. Basically, politics are what happens anywhere you get people together. They just emerge. Because people seem to need boundaries, directions, rules and laws. It's how we govern societies. So for centuries, people have been guided by written codes and documents that lay out the rules for us all to follow. Of course, the most famous example is God giving the Ten Commandments to Moses in Exodus 19. You see, by their nature, people are mostly wretched and wicked creatures. Now, I know there are always examples of beautiful and kind people everywhere in human society, but trust me, every single one of these people have weaknesses and vices that they would be ashamed to have laid bare for all to see. And every single one of them is capable of the most horrendous acts of evil. Even your little old Nan, if she were put in the wrong situation and given the motivation, she would be capable of the most horrendous evil. And so we have to put rules in place to let people know what is acceptable behaviour and what is unacceptable. And for those who transgress those rules and break those laws, there are punishments. That's the deal, folks. All above board, fair exchange, no robbery. Ultimately, every single person who has ever been born, well, bar one, is a slave. A slave to their nature. A nature that seeks to get everything and anything they can that is good for themselves. Even those that appear selfless and benevolent are often driven by the need to be needed, because it makes them feel better about themselves somehow. So because we are slaves to our sinful nature, we need rules, we need laws, because without them society would crumble into anarchy and chaos. But imagine if somehow you could be changed. Imagine if you could somehow be transformed, and rather than be motivated by the slavish desire to get what you can for yourselves, you could be filled with a different nature, a different spirit. A spirit that causes you to seek the highest and the best for someone else, for those who you share this world with. Then you will be a new creature, a new creation, not born to be a slave to sin, but born again free to love. Because that is what it means to be born again of the Spirit. That is what happened to each one of us when we cried out to God for salvation, when we declared that Jesus Christ is Lord. That's what it means to be a daughter and a son of God. And so therefore, we don't need legislation to tell us to stay away from the vulnerable and those in danger of contracting the virus, because we should be motivated by love, the love to want to care and protect those who we share this nation with. God gave us rules to keep us safe until he was ready to redeem us, until he was ready to send his Son into the world to defeat the power of sin and death, to give his life at Calvary to redeem us from our slavery to sin. Jesus set us free so he could put his Spirit within us, the Spirit who would take our heart of stone and give us a heart of flesh, the Spirit who would write the law of God on our hearts so we don't need rules and laws anymore, because we have been given the capacity to love like God loves us. We are his children. We are heirs to his kingdom, the kingdom of his love. So this Christmas, as we celebrate the birth of Jesus, let us remember the truth of who we are: God's people, members of his divine family, daughters and sons of the Most High. We are not slaves in need of rules and laws. We are free to love as he loved us and gave himself for us. Merry Christmas.